There's a number so large that if you tried to count to it out loud, one number per second, you'd still be counting 30,000 years from now. That number is 1 trillion. The United States government owes 36 of them. $36 trillion in debt. And here's the thing that should make you uncomfortable. Nobody in Washington is trying to pay it back. Not the Democrats, not the Republicans, not the progressives or the deficit hawks, or anyone in between. They're not even pretending anymore. And it's not because they're lazy or corrupt or stupid. It's because the entire modern economy is built on a simple, uncomfortable truth. Government debt isn't supposed to be paid off. It's supposed to grow forever. That sounds insane. It should sound insane. But once you understand why, you'll see the world differently. Let me show you. Imagine you're a government. Any government. Doesn't matter. You need to build roads, pay soldiers, fund hospitals, keep the lights on. But you don't have enough tax revenue to cover everything. So you borrow. You issue bonds. Basically, you print fancy IOUs and sell them to anyone willing to lend you money. Investors, banks, pension funds, foreign governments. They give you cash now, and you promise to pay them back later with interest. Simple enough. Now here's where it gets interesting. When those bonds come due, when it's time to actually pay back that debt, you have 3 options. Option 1, raise taxes, cut spending, and pay it off. Option 2, print money to cover it and unleash inflation. Option 3, issue new bonds to pay off the old ones. Guess which one every government picks? Option 3. Every single time, they borrow new money to pay back old money. It's called rolling over the debt, and it's not a bug in the system. It's the system. Let's go back to 1835, January 8th, to be exact. That's the only time in American history the national debt hit zero. President Andrew Jackson hated debt the way some people hate cilantro. He saw it as a moral failing. So he sold off public land, vetoed spending bills, and paid it all off. The country was debt-free. It lasted exactly 1 year. Because here's what nobody tells you. A debt-free government in a modern economy is actually a problem. Government bonds aren't just loans. They're the bedrock of the entire financial system. They're how central banks control interest rates. They're how pension funds generate safe returns. They're how global investors park trillions of dollars with zero risk. If the US government paid off all its debt tomorrow, the global financial system would have a stroke. No exaggeration. Investors need somewhere safe to put their money. And nothing is safer than US Treasury bonds. They're backed by the largest, most stable economy in human history, which means as long as the US can tax its people and print its own currency, those bonds will get paid. But here's the twist. The system only works if the debt keeps growing. Think of it like a credit card you never pay off. You've got a $10,000 limit. Every month, you spend $8,000 and pay back $7,000. Your balance grows slowly. But as long as you keep making payments, the bank doesn't care. In fact, they love it. You're profitable. Now scale that up to a government. The US doesn't need to pay off $36 trillion. It just needs to make the interest payments. And as long as the economy grows faster than the debt, everything's fine. That's the magic number, the debt to GDP ratio. If your economy grows at 3% a year, you can let your debt grow at 3% too, and the burden stays the same. It's like inflation for obligations. Your debt gets bigger, but so does your ability to handle it. Japan's debt is 260% of GDP. They're fine. Italy's is 140%. Still standing. The US is at 123%. Not ideal, but not apocalyptic. Yet. Because here's where the math starts to crack. Interest payments. Right now, the US government spends more on interest than it does on defense. More than it spends on kids' education, on infrastructure, on science and research. Just interest. Money that vanishes into the void, paying off old promises. And it's accelerating. In 2020, interest payments were $300 billion. By 2024, they hit over $900 billion. In 10 years, they'll hit $2 trillion. That's not sustainable. But here's the absurd part. The government can't stop borrowing, because if it does, the economy implodes. Let me explain. Government debt isn't just money the government owes. It's money the private sector owns. Every dollar of debt is a dollar of savings for someone else. Your pension fund, your 401k, China's central bank. If the government suddenly stopped issuing debt, all that savings would have nowhere to go. Interest rates would spike, investments would collapse, retirees would panic. So the government keeps borrowing, even though everyone knows the debt will never shrink. It's a treadmill, and the speed keeps increasing. Now, let's talk about the trick they're not advertising. Inflation. When you owe money, inflation is your best friend. Because debt is fixed, but the value of money isn't. Let's say you borrow $100,000 today. In 30 years, you still owe $100,000. But if inflation averages 3% a year, that $100,000 is now worth $40,000 in today's money. You didn't pay it off. You just waited for it to become cheaper. Governments do this at scale. They borrow in today's dollars and pay back in tomorrow's weaker dollars. It's not default. It's not a bailout. It's just time and inflation doing the work. But there's a catch. This only works if people keep believing the debt is safe. The moment investors panic, the moment they stop buying bonds, interest rates explode. And then the whole thing collapses. That's the unspoken bargain. Trust in exchange for stability. And trust, as it turns out, is the only thing holding the system together. So why don't they just print money and pay it all off? Because that's called hyperinflation, and it ends civilizations. When a government prints money to pay its debts, the currency becomes worthless. Prices spiral. Savings evaporate. Society fractures. It happened in Weimar Germany, in Zimbabwe, in Venezuela. It's the nuclear option. And once you pull that trigger, there's no going back. So instead, governments walk a tightrope. Borrow enough to keep the economy moving. Don't borrow so much that investors lose faith. Keep inflation low enough that people don't riot. High enough that the debt slowly melts away. It's a con. But it's a con everyone agrees to, because the alternative is worse. Here's the part that should keep you up at night. This system assumes infinite growth. It assumes the economy will always expand, that tax revenues will always increase, that there will always be someone willing to buy the next bond. But what happens when growth slows? When populations age and shrink? When productivity stalls and resources run out? What happens when the music stops? Nobody knows, because we've never been here before. Every empire in history eventually collapsed under the weight of its own debt. Rome, Spain, the Ottomans, they all believed they were too big to fail. They were wrong. The US is different. They say, we print the world's reserve currency. Everyone needs dollars. We'll never default. Maybe, but China's building an alternative. Digital currencies are rising. Trust in institutions is falling, and the debt keeps growing. 36 trillion today, 50 trillion in a decade, 100 trillion by mid-century. At some point, the math stops working. The interest becomes unpayable. The illusion cracks. And when it does, it won't be a slow decline. It'll be a cascade. So here's the question nobody wants to answer. What happens when the world's largest economy, the one that's been borrowing for 2.5 centuries, finally runs out of road? Does it collapse? Does it inflate its way out? Does it just keep going, adding zeros until the numbers lose all meaning? Nobody's saying, because nobody knows. And that, more than the debt itself, is the terrifying part. We're flying blind, running an experiment in real time, with the entire global economy as the test subject. The debt will never be paid off. It was never supposed to be. The only question left is how long we can keep pretending that's fine.